Great art constantly outperforms well-performing currency. The image of the Statue of Liberty, it means so much. Like, what price tag would the United States of America put on that statue? Is it even possible, right? And the value of that meme has outperformed all of the value of the American economy, potentially, right? And I think that like there's something to consider in that, and how great art constantly outperforms well-performing currency. And we already sort of speak to ourselves in these tokenized ways. If you tell me that you own a Monet, I can probably assume a few things about you as a collector, and also potentially as your resources too, right? So I think that all these things are really converging when we talk about NFTs, but memes, I mean, there's so many people who do a really good job at this, including Richard Dawkins, right? But they're just like they're very potent forms of expression, right? That you can almost quickly glance at them and connect with a meaning. A lot of them are fractured and mean lots of different things for lots of people, like Pepe the Frog, right? But the idea is that there are sort of all of these intangibles surrounding these memes very often, like Pepe the Frog. You see Pepe and you have all these different associations, but there's no real way to value them. And what NFTs are also playing with is the idea on creating a meme economy based on a meme. That's really where Pepe's specifically comes from.
But, everything, religion is a meme, right? I mean, most things, everything,
absolutely,
human society is put together by these narratives that we construct to tell ourselves certain, what we believe are truths. It's all me. It's all narrative. It's all narrative.
Absolutely. I mean, people would ride into battle with holding a cross, and that sort of tells you everything. People also sport Supreme T-shirts, and I think that that's really what NFTs specifically are really like leaning towards. I think crypto art is also really working to sort of differentiate itself from kind of like the digital collectible camp, and is expressing a whole bunch of other things, all of which have different sort of intents behind them, dependent on which artist or genre we're talking about. But I mean, again, like the idea of memes and them being tradable and actually ascribing value to them is pretty novel, because we've had this language on the internet for decades, since the existence of the internet. But there's been no real way to sort of speculate on the value of the meaning behind a lot of these memes, right?
And, and people will think of this, some people will be watching this thinking, well, there is no value, but what is the value of an advertising slogan? It's a meme. And they're all used to different means. And the Bored Ape Yacht Club was a way of leveraging a giant media technology business called Yuga, which is now worth $4 billion and came out of nowhere.
Exactly.
And that came from a meme, which is a bunch of bored apes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you think, okay, well, I want to tell the story of all of these stories. So you throw yourself in, like the brave director that you are, and you suddenly realize there's 50,000 fucking stories, and how the hell are you going to tell all the nuance of this space? What do you do? Because you've actually interviewed a ton of people. So talk us through that whole thing of how you're trying to construct a narrative from so many sub-narratives.
Yeah, well, I think that it's also it's trying to embrace the space for what it is, right? And it is decentralized. And I think that like it's important that if you're going to try and wrangle your arms around telling some sort of story about it, that it's as wide and decentralized as possible, right? So I think on one hand, like it's been my responsibility to listen to as many people as possible, and try and find as many different perspectives as possible to sort of like craft a spectrum of experiences within this space, right, that speak to it. Because I think that also for an audience who doesn't know this space, who isn't fluent in the crypto sphere, I think it's also important and significant to sort of provide as many different points of entry as possible, so that you have people who are former VCs or traders understanding NFTs for the first time, but then also artists who on a very subjective emotional level are trying to express themselves in this very novel way, and are able to do it because they're able to be anonymous, or they're able to do it beyond the borders of where they live. And I think that like combing through all these narratives and bringing them together and synthesizing them, it will speak to the whole in a way that no individual voice could, right? So my work now is really about braiding a lot of these stories in a way that shows off pivotal moments from crypto art history, but then also gives the audience an understanding as to what this space is about in a way that also provides context. You know, I mean, I think that that was a lot of our work together on set, you know, really like establishing the crypto sphere and cryptocurrency as an alternative to a really fucked up system, right? And I think when we can speak to each other on that level, it doesn't become this giant tech thing right away, but it becomes an option. And right now, I think that people are really, really looking for options on every level for sort of where to put their money, what to believe in, sort of what art to look at. And I think that this space provides so much of that for so many people, but we need to demystify a lot of it and make it less scary.
Now, I know you're still editing and shooting, but give us a hint of some of the people that you filmed, because you've done a lot. I mean, there's been stuff around the NFT space, but you've really, really gone and spoken to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a few people, I guess, that I have to announce closer to the film for sure. But, you know, somebody that I was very excited to film with recently was actually Yuga Labs. I was able to sit down with Gordon and Garga and, you know, go through the history of their time in the space, you know, which starting from before they became the Bored Ape guys is actually quite illuminating, you know, because a lot of people enter this space with, similar to myself, with a very natural curiosity for what it is. Not necessarily all of these ulterior motives, you know. But then also, you know, I was able to actually film with, I mean, there's so many, like Pussy Riot I filmed with, you know, a few months ago. And like, it was an incredible moment because she was raising, it was about $6 million for Ukraine at that time. Simultaneously celebrating her daughter's like 13th birthday. So to, I mean, see this artist activist juggle all of these responsibilities at the same time. I mean, she's an absolute force. And I think that like watching and looking at how she uses this new tech to really armor herself and combat, you know, all of the evil that she sees in the world, it's absolutely inspiring. But then that's also met by like I spent 3 days with Beeple, like 3 weeks ago. And like, you know, that's like, it's so funky. Like his world is it's so Beeple, right? Like he's an adjective and his focus is unreal. And, you know, I think that that's something that is overlooked because we almost say it just like so easily. It's like, oh yeah, he's making a piece of art every day. But it's like, oh no, he's actually there, like working every day, and he's doing it every day. And like that consistency, that focus, it's something that again you don't catch wind of a lot of in 2023. So to spend time with artists who are really in the zone, in the flow that way has just been incredible. Spending a week with Tyler Hobbs in his studio is another one. Like he's a genius, you know, and sort of like, I mean, I'm not a coder, but like watching how he interacts with code is, I imagine similarly to how a poet might sort of like edit and be writing a poem, you know, and to be able to sort of sit in rooms with the brilliant artists of what I believe will be, you know, now, but certainly the next few generations, it's been a priceless experience for me.
And have you addressed other aspects of NFTs, or are you mainly focused on the art and community? Because there's obviously music it's going to come into the mix. It's just starting. It's still nascent. You know, there's people like RAC who's been pioneering that. There's a whole bunch of different uses.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, Rare Skrilla is somebody that I absolutely love. He dropped his album on Bitcoin, like I think 2018, and he has all these incredible songs about blockchain from years ago. Connie Digital is another artist that I'm working with, who also has been minting on the blockchain for a few years. An incredible OG artist, who actually we've done a few collaborations with for the New Year drop. But I'm also, finding ways to use their music within the film itself. So like the film is actually really built of the art with the artists of the space.
Hey visionaries, thank you for tuning in. For more free crypto content like this, head over to realvision.com/crypto. You'll get early access to the most brilliant minds in the space to cut through the noise, get in-depth analysis, and get you ahead of the curve with unbiased insights.